Today is September 7th, 2025, and today is Chongyun's birthday. So for his birthday, I have decided to make a YouTube video detailing everything about Chongyun. Please note that this may not be 100% accurate, but I've tried my best making it 100% accurate. I will not be including any Genius Invocation TCG or any of the Genshin manga in this video. One, because I don't like TCG. I don't know anything about TCG. And I don't think any of it's related. And also, I've never read the Genshin manga, and I don't want to have to do this for the video. That's about it, I guess. Every source I've used will be included in the description down below if you want to check any of them out. I have everything shortened down in 6 categories. Chongyun's basic information. All basic information, just birthday, favorite food, whatever. Next, we have the Chongyun's acquaintances, friends, family, self-explanatory stuff. Next, we have the lore for the story pages, which basically unlocks as your friendship increases with Chongyun. Next, we have all the voiceover lines, just like in the same sections as like all the fighting dialogue, except none of the fighting dialogue will be included. It's literally just the voiceover lines, basically him talk about, hey, I like Xingqiu. Next, we have all of his lore, basically every story event, hangout, actual event, and web events. Every event that Chongyun has been included, he'll be in. I'll be kind of talking about. And then the last category is all of his builds, teams, so basically every artifact that fits with him, every weapon that fits with him, every character that you can use with him, and his kit. Chongyun is an exorcist in Liyue known for having an abundance of yang energy. He regularly eats special popsicles made to help with his sudden outbursts. He is shown to have a cryovision, which is placed in the front of his belt. His alliances are Banisher of Evil and Rumors Thereof, and Frozen Ardor. His birthday is September 7th, and his special dish is cold noodles with mountain delicacies, which comes from the dish Delicious Cold Noodles with Mountain Delicacies, delicious being replaced for his respectful quality. He was the first Cryo Claymore user introduced into the game since he was added in 1.0. He's affiliated with the Tanghang Thaumaturgies, which I'll just throw into TT if I ever have to struggle saying that again. Their mantra being heard through Chongyun's mantras dialogue and Shenhe's motto dialogue. Heart be pure, evil be erased, mind be purged, world be saved. He has 4 voice actors. The English voice actor for Chongyun is Biel Bridgeland. The Chinese voice actor goes by Kinsen on YouTube. The Japanese voice actor for Chongyun is Saito Soma. And the Korean voice actor for him is Yang Jonghwa, which apparently also voices Adult Joel from Flowering Heart, which happened to be my favorite childhood show ever. Chongyun has an aunt, which is Shenhe. Shenhe was raised by an Adeptus, but she doesn't have any Adepti blood, which means Chongyun is most likely not related to any Adepti. Xingqiu is one of Chongyun's best friends, which I fucking hate. Xingqiu just really likes to force-feed Chongyun spicy food. He also notes that Chongyun has good handwriting. More information about him will be told later. Zhengling is another one of his friends, in which he'll eat some of her food as long as it's not spicy, but as noted, he doesn't really eat her food typically. Chongyun likes Jinyan's music, except he doesn't. He states how he doesn't like the heated atmosphere, but Jinyan states that she sees him rocking out when he's forcibly brought, most likely by Xingqiu. He respects Zhao, except he doesn't like how disparaging he is. Zhao has no about Chongyun for him. Chongyun was born in a renowned family of exorcists, except he was born with a unique curse. He was born with pure yang spirit, which means every spirit in a however many miles radius can sense his presence, so they scatter away in fear. Chongyun thinks that this is an inconvenience for him. He has undertaken hundreds of successful exorcisms, although he has never seen a single evil spirit. Because of this, he decided to dedicate himself to studying exorcism techniques in martial arts so he can prove he can exorcise a ghost without his condition. The first time Chongyun ventured out as an exorcist, he heard about a woman who was probably high enough to speak with the Liyue Qixing, having trouble sleeping because of some obnoxious sounds. Every time she followed the sound, it would suddenly shift behind her and the sound would ring again. She hired the best exorcists from everywhere around Tavak. but they all retreated empty-handed. The next part is what made Chongyun iconic. He walked through her door one day and placed a chair in her house, and the sound stopped. She tried to reward him with a lot of jewelry and gold, but he only accepted his few hundred more Fi. Because of the abundance of yang energy in his body, he's constantly troubled by his high body temperature and sudden urges and/or impulses. He's tried everything from not drinking or anything hot to wearing light clothes, staying indoors on hot days, and bringing a parasol with him everywhere he's working. One day, he heard about a spirit in dragon spine, and he went wearing only a shirt. Apparently, he didn't think that was enough, because he dug a hole in the frozen lake, jumped into it, and waited for an evil spirit to show itself. Only after did he see his target did he realize it was just a snow rabbit that was terrified of whatever magic and swords he was using. Apparently, he had a fever after, and it lasted longer than it would have a normal person. So I'm assuming he got hypothermia, and I'm surprised he didn't die. Chongyun tried to stay away from hot things in which he's super sensitive to, or he risks his yang energy spiraling out of control. One day, Chongyun's clan held a celebration party and waited for all the dishes to get cold. He did not think that the tender rice balls had Julian chili in it, though. Chongyun had no recollection of what happened after that. Apparently, he jumped out of the reception desk and shouted that everything was on him, despite him having no money on him at all. He was chatting with other customers like he knew them and bragging to them about how incredible his clan's exorcism arts are. He claimed to have sensed an evil spirit in which he never found. He slapped a charm on Zhongling's forehead and chased her around with a sword. After that incident, he saved for an entire month to pay back One Min Restaurant for all the damages and mess he's caused. It's noted that Zhongling thinks that this is Chongyun's true personality. At some point, he met Xingqiu, who is naturally gifted, except for the fact that he has some shitty handwriting. After he realized that Chongyun was struggling, he came up with a solution. If you can't reduce the effects of your yang energy, what if you sought out an evil spirit that's immune to it? Thanks to that twink, Chongyun started taking Xingqiu out to try to find that exact evil spirit. Of course, every time they try to find something, Chongyun shows up empty-handed. At this point, he blames his luck and still trusts Xingqiu as if nothing can go wrong. He wishes he can fit in more with others, but forces himself to reject invitations to stuff because he needs to control his yang energy. Hot springs, bathing, and relaxing in hot water scares him a lot more than freezing in a lake in Dragonspine. Here everyone praise hot springs for the comfort, being more comforting the hotter they are. But he's very suspicious of this. He doesn't know if it's true or if people are just teasing him. One day, Xingqiu asked him what he would like to do after he erased all evil spirits from the world, and it troubled him because he missed out a lot in life because of his condition. He decided that then he would go to the hot springs. Chongyun had received a family book, The Field Guide to Demons and Beasts, which detailed every spirit his entire family from generations have vanquished. And this book has inspired Chongyun to be the best exorcist possible. The book has some detailed but unique art that shows the characteristics from previous generations. Chongyun has never exorcised any evil spirits, so he draws his own questionable-looking spirits, such as the half-fish, half-hilitroll demon, and a 7-winged, 5-legged chicken beast. Throughout Chongyun's time as an exorcist, many people were suspicious of his practice. It was a lot easier to prove that evil spirits were present than not, which was a huge hurdle for him. There were a few people who apologized to him for the way he practiced, but many were still sus of him. Even then, would he not go with the flow and use some real fancy acts to cover his real method of conducting exorcism? He has never given up, and he wants to become the greatest exorcist in Liyue, control his yang energy, and get rid of all the evil spirits. Because of this, he was given the cryo vision instead of pyro. He doesn't know which goals the vision responded to, though. Now we're gonna go through all of Chongyun's voice lines within his profile. I'm just going to be shortening down every single one of his voice lines or compacting them into groups if they fit within that kind of group. And I will tell you which voice lines they came from. Martial arts and thaumaturgy are used in exorcism to vanquish evil. Ren is also supposed to help purge evil, and said evil is supposed to be afraid of thunder. His good morning, good afternoon, and good evening lines show that he's basically ready to train all day, saying it's unwise to waste the precious morning hours time to train. One's spiritual energies are at their peak at noon. We must take that time to practice. And as the day winds down and the quiet of the evening sets in, the atmosphere is ripe for focusing your mind. There's no better time than this for training. His goodnight line still shows him thinking about work, saying how the day was tiring and how he would have to explore a haunted house. Where is this haunted house, exactly? And about Chongyun commissions, he walked into a haunted house and the evil spirit just disappeared. Based on his reaction about the spirit disappearing, I think he doesn't want to take the payment for the exorcism. About his companions isn't really worth covering, but I'll read it for you. Your skills are impressive. When you finish with the hilitroll, an evil spirit, It is surely banished from this world for good. How about we team up? Him correcting himself from Hilichurl, the evil spirit, might be important information. Chongyun basically thinks we're acquainted with ghost stories based on the About Us Ghost Stories voiceover. He says he wants to see evil beings in lands beyond, which I assume is outside Liyue. He personally thinks visions are powerful, but not to only use them. You must go through vigorous training to be proficient in a fight. Chongyun talks about strange commissions and rumors and is something to share in voiceover dialogue. Sometimes he'll get random commissions about evil spirits, but some of those commissions have nothing to do with them whatsoever. In interesting things, he does state that he's heard a lot of different rare things have been sealed within the Amber on Mount Hula. He wants to investigate because he wonders if any of them are demons from some rumors. In more about Chongyun sections 1 through 5, he states that discipline is everything and that unbridled passion has some disastrous consequences based on experience despite saying otherwise. And it's from some observations during his travels. He states that he was born with pure yang spirit, and that means he has too much positive energy. Apparently it only happens once every 1,000 generations, and he repels all the evil spirits from miles away. He says it's a bad thing to not be able to get any close to any spirits. He notes that because of his pure yang spirit, it gives him access passion. He has to take a parasol with him everywhere and refuses to listen to any rousing music. He wants to find a way to work around this problem, and that waiting for your spirits to show up at your front door will get you nowhere. He says you have to find the evil spirits yourself. He says he brings peace and mind to others and broadens his horizons for purging evil spirits from Liyue. He tells you that he'd help you if an evil spirit bothers you. His goal is to banish every force of evil from the world, saying he would consider trying new things like Chongyun chili and hot springs, but the thought of doing these things is too stimulating for him. His hobbies state that he likes listening to Tea Master Louis's stories because he brings the hair-raising tales of the supernatural to life and invites you to come with. In Chongyun's travels, he tells you how he tracked down the location of an old haunted temple, camped there for 4 days, and nothing happened. He didn't see a single evil spirit. He then states that this is a regular occurrence for him. Chongyun's favorite food is anything authentic Inazuman. He states that the ice-cold freshness of Inazuman cuisine takes exhaustion away. He hates anything that's hot and spicy. He says the mere thought of a Chongyun chili gives me hot flashes. His 3 receiving a gift lines differ based on what dish you give him from a past event. He will state he loves cold dishes, state he needs to wait for his food to cool down before eating, or panic about the thought that you put Chongyun chilies in his dish depending on what dish you gave him. Apparently Chongyun knows how to carve stuff, because on your birthday, his voice note says, "Please accept this gift of a flower made of ice crystals. I carved it myself." He put a spell on it too, to keep you alive if you ever encounter an evil spirit. The materials he uses to ascend, which are Shivada jades, core lapis, hoarfrost cores, and the Hilichurl masks, are what he uses for thaumaturgy during exorcisms. He doesn't know they could be used to purify one's spirit, though. He notes that martial arts and thaumaturgy are alike, in which there's always a new dimension to explore. He thanks us for our guidance. The last 2 feelings about ascension, the climax, and conclusion just state that he has seen new heights, and he won't forget how much will be done for him. He thinks he may have what it takes to face his positive energy, but I severely doubt that. There was apparently a voice line for Chongyun that says, "These are perfect conditions for training. Come on, traveler, train with me for when the sun is out." But that's not in his profile whatsoever. There's going to be a lot in this section, all of the lore from the events and story quests, because I didn't realize how many events he was actually in. I was going to do like the web events, but that he just shows up in some of them. I will still talk about those, but 2 of them are really not really necessary to talk about because of how they show up in the event. The main story quest you'll see Chongyun in is his hangout quest. You approach Chongyun as he stands there talking about a test of courage at Wingmu Hill, and there might be evil spirits there. You can either tell him it's too far-fetched, or you can go with him. If you go with Chongyun to Wing Hill, you do the test of courage, and you have the option to either drink some yang-filled beverage the guy gives you, or share it with Chongyun. If you don't let him drink it, you talk about how people use horror to have fun. You check for evil spots alone after experiencing some interesting interactions with random couples. You see a staff member dressed up as a ghost, you tell Chongyun, and then you have the option to keep looking or head back. If you keep looking and split up, you'll find a ghost who is scared of Chongyun and asks to be let go. She scares some other people participating, and you tell Chongyun about her. You say goodbye to the child. If you go back, he thanks you and you mention hanging out again at some point. If you have him drink the yang-filled beverage, he starts to feel uncomfortable. You can either help him find a place to rest or you can investigate on your own. If you help him find a place to rest and help him find some cryo wildflower or cryo slime condensate, you go down the path to either leave or stay and continue looking, which you either meet that child again or just leave as if Chongyun never drank the yang beverage. If you continue looking instead of helping Chongyun find a place to sit, you find the employee taking his break outside his costume. You tell Chongyun, he starts to feel more uncomfortable, and you head back to Liyue Harbor. If you tell him it's far-fetched, he starts to heat up and eat a popsicle. You see a boy, and you can either have Chongyun to give the boy 1 or 2 popsicles. 1 to share, or 2, so his sister can have 1. Giving the boy 1 popsicle results in him going to chew rock, so it doesn't melt. You and Chongyun go to a book house and discuss clues Xingqiu gave him. You both read rumors about random spirits that may or may not exist. Turns out you still end up at Wuling Hill. You both feel like the rumors are fake, and Chongyun goes about still practicing thaumaturgy in case he met an evil spirit one day, so he can exercise it. You fight some hilichurls thinking you're following an evil spirit. He thinks of this as a success though. If you give the boy both popsicles, you both go to Wanman restaurant to make more popsicles. Depending on the ingredients you give him, the popsicles will make him faint. If you decide to be passive, Chongyun has more popsicles and the boy and his sister come back to play hide and seek, and you serve him cold noodles. The kids want to play more hide and seek with Chongyun. If you talk to Chongyun in your chi pot, he'll ask if you've been well. He says we come across strange anecdotes or rumors of evil spirits to share with him. If you ask him how he likes it in the teapot, he says it's a nice place to settle down and there's no need to worry about the heat and the sun, although it's not as cold as he likes. If you ask him if he isn't going to go outside and walk, he states he'll need to bring a parasol. If you say you don't need to worry about any evil spirits, Chongyun assures us we won't see any. And he thanks you for inviting him, and if we need anything, he'll help us out. If you ask Chongyun to have a chat with you, he'll tell you he had an infuriating experience. He heard someone talking about a book, so he went to go get a copy of it. He was shocked when it was about a really horrible villain. He said it was hard to get his anger under control, and he spent half a day to get his blood pressure and breathing under control. If you ask him if the label wasn't what you thought, he's a little confused and says he wasn't bothered by the title. If you instead say you will help explain and return the book, he says it wasn't a moral issue. His questions the morality of the person in the book and almost gets himself worked up again. You tell him the book's plot is made up by the author. He then realizes fiction is a thing and feels like he made a fool of himself, apologizing. If you ask him if there's anything he wants to do, he invites you to 2-flavor hot pot. He mentions that he thought it was a pity that he couldn't eat at the same time as you and he found a solution to it. He says that a partition is placed to divide the soup, so even he could enjoy the light soup base, even if you had julienne chili in yours. If you say that it would be fun, he's shocked that you agreed so quickly, and you could do hot pot soon. If you say you could have light soup with him, he gets flustered. After the dialogue choice, he'll stutter, and you'll tell him his face. Chongyun insists that he's fine and everything went better than he thought, and that he's happy. During the day, if you say good morning to him, he'll greet you and ask if you have any plans. If you are wanting to train or hunt evil spirits, he says he'll accompany you. If you say goodnight to him during the evening, he says goodnight and tells you to head to bed first. He'll rest after doing another round of practice. If you talk to him after placing the furniture set Cloudy Haze Dream Court, he says after returning from a long journey, it would feel nice to rest here before heading out again. Weapons can go there, and sigils can go under my pillow. Well, where should I put my parasol? I suppose I'll just put it by the door. If you talk to him after placing the furniture set Itir ad Astra Abasask, he'll say, how do you know that I was worrying about finding a place to practice? Simple tents and a traveler's pack. Practicing here would be great. Good thinking, setting this up around your house. Many thanks for the trouble you went to. Then he shows up in a few limited time events. The first one he appeared in was the preparation of the Wind Chase Festival Moonlight Merriment. He was included in Part 1. He was also included in Part 2 during the cinematic scene, which I'll probably have played somewhere over this voiceover. The first part struggles off with Paimon suggesting to eat at Wanman restaurant because the weather reminds her of it. They meet Zhang Ling, and she says she needs inspiration for a cooking contest. They ask Qutao and Baizhu for some advice. Then they look for Beidou, Ningguang, and Kachink. Kachink talks about the stove god. As a group, you decide to go to Kinsei village and meet Chongyun and Xingqiu. Xingqiu kind of forced Chongyun to come, as always. They talk about the stove god for a few seconds, and Chongyun becomes afraid of what Zhang Ling might cook, and the masterful chefs competition. He states he likes cold food and doesn't like spicy food. If you had talked to them before going away, Xingqiu is sort of teasing Chongyun about reading books. After that, it's useless information because Chongyun wasn't involved. If you want more information about the event, you can probably find it somewhere on YouTube or in the link down below. In the second part, he's seen with Xingqiu and some other people like Chi-Chi and Hitao. Nothing else needs to be said, I guess. The next event is the Lantern Rite Festival, Fleeting Colors and Flight. Part 1 starts off with meeting Ningguang at Yohei Pavilion and talking about putting out fireworks for the Lantern Rite. They then visit Keqing, who is organizing the fireworks. They greet each other over for a bit before Keqing leaves to do more work. Ningguang worries for her health. Yun and Paimon go meet Zhongli, in which she's with director Hitao. Turns out he was with Zhongli too. Yun and Paimon talk to Zhongli about Keqing being too hardworking, and they ask for advice. After being told to indirectly tell her to take a breather, apparently Ganyu is gone somewhere too, so you have to be a fucking wage slave again. The first part is completely useless as Chongyun was never involved, but it builds up meeting him, so I'll include it this once. The second part begins after that. You wait until somewhere between 8 AM and 12 PM the next day and meet Keqing at the Jade Chamber. You look for Madame Ping. She's talking to Yanfei, coincidentally, about not overworking, like this is some fucking Disney movie. The Qixing gave them silk and exotic flower seeds. Then you meet with Cloud Rotator. After a lot of useless conversation, they go to meet Zhao. You meet Chi-Chi and Baizhu. More useless talking after that. This is only about Chongyun, and all of this is basically useless. Zhao pops up out of nowhere. He meets Keqing, and he disappears. Suddenly, some dude is freaking out about someone stealing fireworks from a firework display. After this, though, it's important. They go to Qinche Village for information about the theft. You talk to Granny Rosian, and she tells you everyone's hyped about the fireworks. Then they were gone the next day, and some dude was anxious about the fireworks missing, so they went to the city to find a solution. You approach the fireworks storage and look for clues. Keqing sees footprints, and you guys follow them. You see Chongyun and Xingqiu with a treasure hoarder. Chongyun expresses his hopes were let down, thinking it was an evil spirit when it was just some whack-ass treasure hoarder. Xingqiu was just escorting some supplies for the Lantern Rite since his brother did it last year. He was doing it this year. Chongyun was just along for the ride since he was there. Xingqiu tells us about the fireworks being used to ward off spirits because they were called firecrackers. Chongyun starts to ramble about it, which makes you think Xingqiu is trolling again. Apparently, when Xingqiu and Chongyun had arrived, Chongyun sensed an ambush was about to take place. When the guards take the treasure hoarder away, Chongyun says that there might be more treasure hoarders in the area. He found more footprints, and while he was chasing the treasure hoarders earlier, he only saw a few, and they were mostly unarmed, thinking they were waiting for someone. Keqing tells them about the stolen fireworks. Chongyun and Xingqiu decide to deal with more treasure hoarders and leave for Qinche Village. After that, all of the information about Part 2 is useless. Keqing tells you she finds you in Qinche Village when she's done looking for the missing fireworks. You meet Keqing the next day. Chongyun is guarding the outside of Qinche Village while Xingqiu guards the inside. You and Keqing fight treasure hoarders, and then you meet Keqing at Qinche Village. Xingqiu and Chongyun are talking. Chongyun wishes he could have fought alongside Xingqiu's side. You ask Xingqiu if he's busy. He basically says that things get busy during holidays, and if anything, Chongyun could be there for assistance. His fruity side obviously shows because Xingqiu just quotes, "Work before they play," as they say, and Chongyun folds. Chongyun and Xingqiu leave after that. After they leave, most of the stuff is information. Chongyun is shown after in a cutscene, and after you finish the quest, you can find Chongyun and Xingqiu. Chongyun thinks he's forgetting something. Xingqiu is trying to push the exquisite scenery justice shit. Suddenly, Chongyun remembers the demons. Xingqiu tells him, "Slow your roll," indirectly. Chongyun chills out for a second, asking Xingqiu what they wanted again. Both Xingqiu and Chongyun suddenly forget what they were talking about. The third event he was in was yet another Lantern Rite Festival, the Exquisite Night Chimes, during Part 2 and the epilogue. In Part 2, he shows up in the cinematic cutscene that plays, but he's only in the crowd. Anything before Part 2 and in Part 2 is useless in the dialogue for the epilogue. In the epilogue, Paimon tells you to hurry so you can join Hitao for dinner. Zhongling, Xingqiu, Chongyun, and Zhongli are seen talking about food. Chongyun changes the topic and asks for a few words of guidance about exorcism. You, Paimon, and Zhongli greet each other. Zhongling says Yunjin and Jinyan are busy with their stuff, and they send their season's greetings to everyone. Xingqiu mentions that Jinyang's performance gave Zhongling inspiration for her dishes and it gave them a headache. Chongyun snaps back because of course he ate Xingqiu's portion. Paimon, Zhongli, and Zhongling talked for a bit and Zhongling had given pointers to Zhongling previously. Chongyun mentions it might be safer to eat with Zhongli's pointers. Suddenly, y'all realize Hu Tao wasn't there. Once again, as if it were a Disney movie, Hu Tao slams the door open and she brought Zhao along. Flashback moment comes and goes. Hu Tao says some whack nonsense about you and Zhao being close, and then the food arrives. Chongyun mentions it was the first time he even heard you being close friends with Zhao. He tells us he always looked up to Zhao. Apparently, them as exorcists had worked with the Conqueror of Demons, which Zhao is, for generations. They acquaint each other. Xingqiu introduces himself to Zhao. Paimon, Zhongli, Hu Tao, and Zhao talk for a bit. Apparently, someone in the event dev team realized flashbacks do exist because they put another in place. Flashback ends after Hu Tao screams Zhao's name. Chongyun mentions how he probably came just so Hu Tao would stop pestering him. Hu Tao and Zhongli talk about how difficult it was for Hu Tao to bring Zhao, and about the Archon War bringing people together. Xingqiu mentions everything will be fine because of Chongyun's pure yang energy. As he says this, he tries to sneak carrots into Chongyun's bowl. Zhongling sides with Chongyun and talks about Goba, her stove god pet, making Xingqiu eat carrots if he had seen what he did. Zhao says he met an old friend before showing up. Suddenly, Venti shows up. They talk about Zhao and poems. Zhongling asks Xingqiu for a book because she can't see the difference between the two. My dumbass self can't tell if she meant the books or Zhongli and Zhao. Chongyun says it's not her fault. Everyone makes roasts. You ask Zhao if he's done eating and leave the group. If you talk to Chongyun before you leave Zhao, Chongyun asks Xingqiu about him and Venti being a partner in his business. You and Zhao talk for a bit. Zhongling finds you two and expresses her worry for leaving. You all go back to Jinyu Kiosk. Paimon, Hu Tao, and Venti talk for a bit. Hu Tao talks about trying to find the most distinguished guest there. Xingqiu tries to nominate Chongyun because he's an exorcist. Chongyun self-deprecates himself for Zhao having the title. Suddenly, you all tease Paimon and she becomes sus of the praise. Chongyun agrees with Xingqiu about the friends teasing each other. You guys finish eating and Hu Tao says she's going to accompany Xingqiu, Chongyun, and Zhongling back home. Everyone else starts saying their goodbyes. After the quest, you can find Chongyun, Zhongling, Xingqiu, and Hu Tao. Hu Tao tries to push Xingqiu for more information on how he met Venti. Xingqiu says that Hu Tao is overreacting and he gives in, going, "Fine, I'll tell the truth." Obviously, Chongyun and Zhongling are surprised. Xingqiu is just a fan of Venti's poetry. What a fucking loser. Venti was considerate enough to not embarrass Xingqiu, and Chongyun confirms that. Everyone says it's not a big deal and they drop it. Chongyun then suggests playing Mahjong. The third event story he's in was Duels, the Summoner Summit, but he was only for the second round. For the purpose of the length of this, I'll just recap the first round. You and Paimon are at Mondstadt and overhear a Genius Invocation TCG tournament taking place. Kirawa shows herself and introduces herself to Yona and dips out. You're also too late to participate in the tournament. Charlotte shows up and introduces herself. She mentions there's rumors about a card snatcher. She tells you she has to give money to a rich person, which happens to be Mona. Kaya and Timmy play against each other. Charlotte sees a suspicious person and y'all follow them and fight some treasure hoarders. Y'all talk to the suspicious guy and he tells you he sold a card to a dude that offered 3 times the market price for the card. The suspicious man tells you the guy went to Leeway for more. Timmy wins against Kaya. Round 2 starts with you, Paimon, and Charlotte going to Leeway. A person named Baiwen greets you. Apparently, Ningguang wants to meet Charlotte for work stuff even though it's her first time in Leeway. Charlotte leaves for Baiwen. You now look around asking people if they've seen anyone collecting card backs. You meet Kazuha and tell him about the card snatcher. You both talk about Genius Invocation TCG. Then you guys notice Kirara again. You, Kirara, Paimon, and Kazuha introduces each other. Kirara mentions she's struggling to find the Wangsheng funeral parlor, and Paimon offers to show her. Hu Tao meets Kazuha and Kirara. Kirara delivers the package and runs off into the distance. Kazuha and Hu Tao talk about poems. Then Hu Tao talks about being in the TCG tournament. Hu Tao offers to play with Kazuha. They play and Hu Tao obviously wins. Kaching shows up and greets them. They talk a bit and Paimon remembers about the task at hand. Did anyone see some suspicious fuck trying to collect card backs like a Pokemon scalper? Apparently Hu Tao didn't think he was suspicious and told them he played against Chongyun for one of the cards. They go to Wu Wing Hill to find him. Chongyun is comforting a child who is playing hide and seek with his sister. Kazuha and Chongyun introduce each other. You all look around to find little Yu. You defend some treasure hoarders. Chongyun finds some TCG cards, and the kid says his sister has some of them. You realize she might have a casket of tomes, which could track her location. You talk to Yu, and she apologizes. Chongyun tells the kids that Wu Wing Hill is dangerous and they shouldn't play in the area. Then he says he'll walk them home. Then Yu and Paimon tell Chongyun about the card snatcher, and he gets upset for letting an evil person slip through his fingers. He tells us that the card snatcher said something about Inazuma being too far away. Chongyun walks the children home after. After that, he doesn't show up again. Spoiler alert, they go to Inazuma, realize there's probably more than one card snatcher, and they go to Sumeru. They find the people, and they try to kill Kirara. The card backs had a secret message, and the cards got all messed up because it's all useless anyway, because Chongyun isn't involved, so the section is done. The next event is the one Chongyun was mainly in, which was the Waterborne Poetry event. You start off with Paimon telling you about Li Wei and Monster having a joint event together. You go to Wangshu Inn and find Hu Tao and Venti talking. They give you shitty clues about the event being a poetry event. Zhao shows up without scaring Paimon for once and says he isn't gonna partake, but Hu Tao and Venti try to persuade him into doing it. You go to the Stone Gate and see Xingqiu and Chongyun. Chongyun states he was trying to train, but Xingqiu accosted him and dragged him there. Xingqiu talks about Noelle for a second, and Chongyun reminds Xingqiu that he needs to help Chongyun with his investigation. Paimon asks about the investigation, but Xingqiu dismisses her. You and Paimon talk to Diona about her trying to crumble the wine industry in Mondstadt. You talk to Mika and Noelle about setting up the venue. Fucking hate Mika. Eventually, the hosts show up and they start speaking. Venti and Hu Tao tell the crowd about the first activity, writing riddles. They will select a few riddles to read from the hanging lanterns, and whoever solves the most gets a prize. You read some riddles from other people, and Paimon writes her own. Noelle and Mika flirt as Xingqiu teases Paimon as she tries to guess his poem. Riddle guessing ends, and you and Paimon find Chongyun to talk about his investigation. Xingqiu offers his prize to Paimon, and Hu Tao says it's a buy one get one free coupon for their service package, and Paimon backs out of it. Chongyun mentions he saw a non-human entity and tried to exorcise it, but none of his methods worked on it. He says it disappeared into thin air. Hu Tao and Venti speak a little about it, and Venti says everyone needs to get some rest. Hu Tao reveals the second theme for the event, pairing couplets. Two groups are formed for an inspiration walk, specifically to find what Chongyun was looking for, and you end up being with Paimon, Diona, Chongyun, and the other group being Xingqiu, Mika, and Noelle. Diona says that y'all should go where Chongyun last saw the non-human thing. You call Chongyun captain, and he tells you to quit messing around. He takes you all to his place where he trains. He tells Diona that people think he's a fraud because of his pure spirit. Zhao shows up and tells Chongyun he didn't see anything, and if Chongyun saw anything, to let Zhao know. They beg Zhao to be a part of their team, and he hesitantly agrees. Paimon is excited and calls it Chongyun's team. Paimon then asks Diona about the ingredients she wants to find. She mentions Julian chilies, and Chongyun says it's not a great idea. But unknowingly to him, she wants bad ingredients. Diona explains what she's doing with the ingredients to Chongyun, and he questions her efforts in the taste of the drinks. Diona grabs some Julian chilies and makes Chongyun and Zhao a non-alcoholic drink. Zhao drinks it, in which Chongyun feels pressured to drink it too. He starts yapping about the textures and the taste of the ingredients Diona put in the drink. Paimon agrees with Chongyun, but Diona seems upset about failing to make a disgusting drink. Then she's confused about Chongyun. Chongyun asks for another drink, and you instruct Diona to make him a cold drink. He calms down a bit and apologizes. Diona realizes his pure yang spirit isn't as great as she thought. Chongyun doubted Diona's drink curse. Zhao sees a leaf, and the leaf has a love poem written on it. They decide to head upstream and write a few copies of the reply poem and set them off. Mika and Noelle talk about setting up camp, and Xingqiu is confused. Mika and Xingqiu then go out to find good stuff. They go back to talk to Noelle after they talk to an NPC. After they go back to the venue. You, Paimon, Diona, and Chongyun head back too. Paimon screams Zhao's name thinking he was with y'all, but he decides to go watch from a distance. Xingqiu starts off with the first half of a couplet, and Chongyun thinks of the second half of it. He then comes forward to start the first half of a second couplet. Noelle finishes that couplet. The NPC decides to start the third couplet, and you finish the second half of it. Apparently, it's not good enough for Hu Tao, and the NPC makes another. You, yet again, finish it thinking about Zhao. Hu Tao judges Zhongli for allowing some of the couplets, so Xingqiu challenges Hu Tao to finish his. They do this again, and suddenly everyone tries to make their own. Eventually, the night comes to a close and this day is over, or so I thought. The NPC asks about a story, and everyone discusses it. Venti reveals the last topic to the group, which is freestyle poetry. Then they all leave. You, Paimon, Mika, Chongyun, and Diona meet at the venue the next day, and Paimon notices some people missing. Chongyun said Xingqiu was busy writing poems and would come later, and Mika said Noel had some other duties to attend to. Paimon asks about the NPC, which Chongyun states he saw on the bridge while he was training, and that she looked upset. They all go to look for her. They talk about her on the bridge they last saw her. One of y'all see a leaf and decide to follow it. They read it. Mika uses his shitty survival instinct and has y'all follow him to find the NPC. They see a Hydro Eladon, and Chongyun exclaims that this was the thing he saw. The NPC goes back into human form and explains that she's an Oceanid from Fontaine. She tells a story about her living in Mondstadt and the story of her and some boy named Finch. He showed some emotion and she didn't understand, so she fled. She wishes she can go back, but she's afraid of her past making consequences. Mika tells her to see Finch. They travel to Springville and Mondstadt, and Diona grabs Finch. Finch greets Mika, and Chongyun introduces himself. NPC reads the old man a poem and turns into an Oceanid. The NPC gives him a water droplet, and they say some cute words. The NPC reveals that Diona was a friend of hers and gave her a blessing as a gift, so she would always be with Diona. Y'all are forced to look away from the NPC, and Oceanid form kisses Finch. You, Paimon, Mika, Chongyun, and Diona go back to the venue in Liyue. They see Venti, and he says Shitao was writing her poem stuff. Xingqiu showed up, I guess. He asks everyone where they went. They tried to change the subject, but Xingqiu tries to pressure Mika and Chongyun into telling him, especially trying to get Chongyun to tell him for fake knowledge about where evil spirits may be. Chongyun says he thinks maybe the pure Yang spirit isn't such a bad thing. The event ends there. The 6th event he was in was the Springtime Charms event, which is once again a Lanternry Festival. I won't try to detail a summary until Chongyun shows up, which happens in the first stanza and the final stanza. So the second stanza and the third stanza are useless. You and Paimon meet Hutao and Zhongling. Then you, Paimon, and Zhongling meet Keqing and Lanyan. They talk about a legend. Ganyu exists, Keqing and Ganyu then stop existing. You, Paimon, and Lanyan go back to the funeral parlor. Something goes on about a cursed doll. You meet Xingqiu and Chongyun, and someone had called for an exorcist because some curse nearby. Chongyun states it was like a fader of death. Some shit happens in the rest of the stanza in the 2 next ones. Hutao saves you and it's over. Basically nothing huge happened with Chongyun, and they placed him there because Xingqiu existed. Plus, the story is 3 hours long for some whack nonsense. If you want to watch the event in full for more information, I'll have a link down below in the description. If you had gifted him an envelope during the event, he wishes he knew what was going on before you and Hutao had to fix the situation. One of the last few events he was in was the Real Adventure event, which he organized frames to tell the story in order. This one is the shortest part in this section. Chongyun only shows up for 2 frames during the second script, which was an advertisement for One Man Restaurant. The last 2 events he was included was the Traveler's Tale Anthology chapter and the Traveler's Tales Gilded chapter. Chongyun wasn't directly a character for either, but he showed up during one of Xingqiu's anecdotes and one of Kirara's anecdotes. He was mentioned in the other anecdote once, but nothing directly impacting any lore. The first Xingqiu anecdote, No Other Choice, you see Chongyun and Xingqiu talking. Xingqiu has a dilemma. His handwriting is absolute shit. He wrote a novel under some name Zhenyu. When he needs to send him stuff to directors, they have to write back asking for what he wrote. So he started sending it to a department to retranscribe everything. He started to feel bad and he sent them some snacks. But then one of the editors got sick and nobody else can transcribe anything. You ask if Chongyun can write. Xingqiu tells you both no. You think Chongyun might have bad handwriting, but Xingqiu praises his handwriting. Chongyun just reads everything out when he writes them. Chongyun praises Xingqiu's writing and reads out some dialogue. Xingqiu gets embarrassed and tells him to stop. You tell him you'll get a typewriter. Xingqiu rambles about his brother and decided it'll be alright to use it. Chongyun asks if he can see it when Xingqiu's done, and Xingqiu asks Chongyun to spare him. The anecdote ends there. The other anecdote, that I said previously, doesn't have anything other than one mention of Chongyun, so it's useless to say anything. And Kirara's anecdote, I see cool, you head to Liyue Harbor. It starts off with Kirara praising Chongyun for his lack of spice or heat in his food. You're confused about Chongyun being there, I guess. Zhongling tells you Chongyun's signature dish was perfect for Kirara. Chongyun states that when he was passing by, Zhongling yoinks Chongyun and had him make noodles and some sides for Kirara. Kirara says for him not to act like a stranger and tells him she won't let him see Ito or Iori if he keeps it up. You're confused by that, but Kirara explains because of Ito being an Ani and Iori being a yokai. Chongyun assumes they're evil and says Lanyan or Xingqiu could help them with their skills. Kirara has to explain again that they're good people. She decides it's time for them to go to Inazuma to see them. The anecdote ends there. I will note in Kirara's My Package anecdote that they in fact do go to Inazuma, but Chongyun was never involved. That is the worst thing that could happen. Chongyun showed up in 5 web events, which I'll read the names below, but I won't further explain because they all have the same dialogue as in-game and or account detail recap events. Side by Side We Venture, An Unforgivable Journey, Festive Celebration of Flowing Hues, Canvas of Starlight Memories, and Discover Teva. Chongyun has 5 different birthday mail, which I'll show on screen now. From here on, the information I am giving is what I have gathered and understood to the best of my small IQ ability. I'll tell you every talent and constellation, and then I'll tell you how to play with him just on his own. After that, I'll list potential teams for Chongyun for the sub DPS or support role, and then list potential teams for the main DPS role. Then I'll list any good and bad artifacts for Chongyun. Now, in this Google document, I actually forgot to list bad artifacts. I just didn't list them at all. I have listed some good artifacts to use for different scenarios, though, including the very niche builds. Chongyun's Gallant Journey talent reduces the time Chongyun spends on expeditions by 25%. This talent has no use in battle, so we'll disregard it. Chongyun's 3rd constellation, Cloudburst, increases his ultimate burst level by 3%. This isn't really worth talking about. Chongyun's 5th constellation, The True Path, increases his ultimate burst level by 3. This is also not really worth talking about. If you hear any bells in this video, I've tried to cop it out as much as I can, but it's these fucking kittens. Won't you good little fucker? Okay, you're getting off me. Chongyun's normal attack, Demon Bane, isn't unique at all, but I will note that if an enemy is in the frozen state and he hits an enemy with it, he will shatter the ice and unfreeze the enemy. Unlocking Chongyun's 1st constellation, Ice Unleashed, Chongyun will release 3 ice blades from his weapon during the last attack in his attack sequence. Each icicle does 50% of Chongyun's attack as cryo damage. If you unlock Chongyun's 4th constellation, Frozen Skies, Chongyun will regenerate 1 energy every time he hits an opponent affected by cryo, which can be used once every 2 seconds. Spirit Blade, Chonghwa's Layered Frost, his elemental skill, causes your character's weapon to be infused with cryo that aren't bows or catalysts, as long as your character is in the frost field, which lasts for 3 seconds. The frost field will have a blue ring around when you place his elemental skill. When Chongyun's Steady Breathing talent is unlocked, his skill will give your on-field characters an attack speed bonus by 8%, as long as they are in the circle. When Chongyun's Rhyme Chaser Blade talent is unlocked, when the field is created by a skill that infuses your weapons with cryo disappears, a Spirit Blade will be summoned and hit a nearby opponent and decrease the cryo res by 10% for 8 seconds. If you unlock Chongyun's 2nd constellation, Atmospheric Revolution, any other character that uses an elemental skill or burst will have their cooldown reduced by 50% while in the frost field. Chongyun's ultimate burst, Spirit Blade Cloud Parting Star, summons 3 giant Spirit Blades that does cryo damage on opponents once. The icicles will shatter upon impact and refuse to let the opponents stay frozen for very long. His ultimate burst costs 40 energy, so he doesn't require much or any energy recharge. If you unlock Chongyun's 6th constellation, Rally of 4 Blades, Chongyun's ultimate burst will deal 15% more damage to opponents with less HP remaining than Chongyun. The constellation also adds an extra Spirit Blade to his ultimate burst. To use Chongyun alone at level 90, you want to hit an enemy with Chongyun's skill, then continue hitting the enemy with normal attacks until the ring disappears. Once the ring disappears and the Rhyme Chaser Blade talent is activated, hitting the opponents, you want to use Chongyun's skill on the enemy. This is included in the Chongyun constellations. Even if you had them all, it won't affect the way you play him. His 1st constellation will just do more cryo damage after the full normal attack sequence. His 2nd constellation just giving a skill and burst cooldown, which is more useful for other characters in rotation. His 3rd constellation will let him gain energy every few seconds by hitting enemies affected by cryo, which will make getting your burst easier and quicker. His 6th constellation will just make his burst stronger and do more damage. If you wanted to use Chongyun as DPS and you were looking for some teams to buff or damage, I can list some good ones below before I list all the artifact sets you can use on him. Chongyun, Farina, Shenhe, Bennett. If you were to use this team to buff Chongyun as much as possible for cryo damage, you would need to make sure everyone is on low in health or at the halfway point Farina's minions yoink. You want to use Chongyun's skill, Farina's burst, go into your backpack and heal everyone. Press Shenhe's skill, then Bennett's skill, and then burst. You make sure Farina's minions take out all the health, so your burst buffs a lot more. You do Chongyun's skill first, because by the time you place Bennett's ultimate, the icicle from the skill will hit the enemy when it's affected by pyro, so do reverse melt and do big number of damage. You use Farina's burst and then heal everyone to get the max fine fair stacks. Shenhe's skill needs to be pressed for the skill and burst damage buff. You use Bennett's skill to melt Shenhe's skill, so chances are it won't do as much if it were to melt her skill with his burst. You go back to Chongyun and either have his skill do all the damage and or use his ultimate. Try not to have Farina's minions or her healing thing out when you start the showcase. If you want to try a similar team, but with more guaranteed melt damage, try Chongyun, Farina, Kazuo, and Bennett. You want to make sure you're at half health with everyone. You want to use Chongyun's skill, Kazuo's skill, Farina's burst, heal everyone with food, Bennett's skill, then Bennett's burst. After, do Kazuo's burst. You can let your ultimate and his skill do his thing. If you want a cryo plunge Chongyun team, I suggest Chongyun, Cloud Retainer, Bennett, and another character to buff. It could be Kazuo, Farina, Sucrose, whatever character you want. With this team, it does require Cloud Retainer. There is no specific rotation I have in mind for this, but it requires Cloud Retainers and Bennett's ultimates. If you're doing well with this, it'll probably do a lot of damage. If you aren't aware by this by now, I love reverse melt with Chongyun. I did try a shatter test with Chongyun, level 90 C6 Chongyun, with a level 75 R5 mailed flower, and he had 939 elemental mastery. His shatter did 30,000. Shatter does not crit, so there's no need for crit anything in that build. All it requires is for you to stack a bunch of elemental mastery on Chongyun and use characters like Sucrose that buff it. Good luck finding characters to freeze to also buff elemental mastery. If you want some standard free-to-play characters to buff Chongyun in a standard way, you can use Zhangling, Bennett, Sucrose, Lisa, Lynette, or Rosaria. If you want some 5-star characters to buff Chongyun, you could use Mona, Farina, Shenhe, Jillian, Zitlali, and Cloud Retainer. Other characters that buff aren't added to this list for simplicity reasons, but you can, any character that buffs and you know they buff, you can use them. It'll probably be alright for the most part. If you want some other team ideas though, I'd recommend looking online, because there is a lot online. Or you could just experiment yourself if you feel like it. That's fine too. Now we'll list every good artifact build for him. We have 2 categories. One for 2-piece sets to mix and match, and one for 4-piece set builds. Some 2-piece sets aren't going to be included in the 4-piece set stuff, and some 4-piece set stuff is not going to be included in the 2-piece sets. I will not include every build, but I'll make examples of ideas of certain build sets if you want to use any of them. Spoiler alert, almost all artifact sets were included except other elemental artifacts for obvious reasons. You know, being the hydro damage set, but Chongyun doesn't do hydro damage. 2-piece Blizzard Strayer. Cryo damage bonus 15%. Bloodstained Chivalry, physical damage percent 25. Crimson Witch of Flames, pyro damage bonus 15%. Echoes of an Offering, attack plus 18%. Emblem of Severed Fate, energy recharge 20%. Finale of the Deep Galleries, cryo damage bonus 15%. Flower of Paradise Lost, elemental mastery 80. Fragment of Harmonic Whimsy, attack plus 18%. Gilded Dreams, elemental master plus 80. Gladiators Finale, final, attack 18%. Golden Troop, elemental skill damage 20%. Long Night's Oath, plunging attack damage increased by 25%. Marishose Hunter, normal and charge attack damage 15%. Nightmare Whispers in the Echoing Woods, attack 18%. Noblesse Oblige, elemental burst damage 20%. Pale Flame, physical damage 25%. Retracing Ball-Eyed increases shield strength by 35%. Scroll of the Hero of Cinder City. When a nearby party member triggers a Night Soul Burst, the equipping character regenerates 6 energy. Shiminawa's Reminiscence, attack 18%. Unfinished Reverie, attack 18%. Vermilion Hereafter, attack 18%. Wanderer's Troop, elemental mastery 80+. Obviously, the way I listed it, I sold the set name, and I gave the buff after. You can mix and match depending on how you want to build Chongyun. You want to do Shatter, get some Elemental Mastery. If you want to make him a plunge damage user, you can do that. If you want to shield Chongyun for some fucking reason, you can put Retracing Ball-Eyed on him, I guess. Now I'll list some builds you can use if you want. putting both cryo damage sets on him. Double cryo damage if you feel like it. Could be better with some other builds, but I had Mualani with double hydro sets, and she's my highest crit, so who knows, it could probably be really good. Plunge cryo, you can Long Night's Oath, and either cryo damage set makes a cryo plunge DPS. Some dude showed me this was a possibility, and it did some decent damage. Scale damage, you can pair Golden Troop with Noblesse if you want, or you could pick the other 2-piece set like a cryo damage bonus one or an elemental mastery artifact. Burst, it's the same, except you can pair Golden Noblesse with Golden Troop, or you can pick like a cryo damage bonus set. Whatever. Pyro damage, Chongyun. It sounds insane, but I had a friend who really loved playing Ayaka, and another one of my friends decided to try to build her pyro damage. And that's where I got this idea from. Bennett's Burst, if you C6 him, will override Chongyun's Circle for when he does his skill. So you could use that to your advantage if you really, really wanted to. Physical damage, if you really wanted Chongyun to be physical, you could probably make that work. Shatter, the more elemental mastery you have on Chongyun, the more damage Shatter does. You essentially freeze an enemy and then use Chongyun's attacks to break them free from Frozen, and you do more damage with that in the process. Extras with attack, if you have a 2-piece set, that's perfect. You can use one of the many artifact sets that has an attack plus 18% bonus. It's up to you to choose which one you want to do. Extras with energy, if you have a very specific team with Natlan characters and Chongyun. 2-piece Scroll of the Cinder City may work, but Emblem works a lot better. You can use the energy set with whatever set, depending on what kind of damage you want him to do. And we're going to be doing 4-piece sets, which will include or not include certain sets, because 2-piece sucks with certain builds, but 4-piece with that same set might be alright if you wanted to do a certain build. But some character sets will not work if it's 4-piece. If a set wasn't included in the 2-piece set list, I'll include the 2-piece buff with the 4-piece buff. Blizzard Strayer, when the character hits an enemy affected by cryo, crit rate increased by 20%. If the enemy is frozen, crit rate is increased by an extra 20%. This may or may not work for certain builds, though. Bloodstained Chivalry, after defeating an enemy, increases charged attack damage by 50% and reduces the stamina cost to 0 for 10 seconds. Echoes of an Offering. When normal attacks hit opponents, there's a 36% chance that it will trigger Valley Ripe, which will increase normal attack damage by 70% of attack. It will be dispelled 0.05 seconds after a normal attack deals damage. If a normal attack fails to trigger this, the odds of it triggering increases by 20% and occurs once every 0.2 seconds. Emblem of Severed Fate increases elemental burst damage by 25% of energy recharge, maxed out at 75% extra bonus damage. Finale of the Deep Galleries. When the equipping character has 0 elemental energy, the normal attack damage and elemental burst damage is increased by 60%. After the equipping character deals normal attacks damage, the burst attacks damage will buff and stop applying after 6 seconds. The same goes the other way around. This can happen when your character is off field. I have no idea how to get this to fit on Chongyun, but if it would probably be pretty good. I doubt it works on him though. Fragment of Harmonic Whimsy. When the value of a bond of life increases or decreases, this character deals 18% increased damage for 6 seconds and stacks up to 3 times. Good luck getting bond of life on Chongyun. If you even somehow get that to happen, it probably wouldn't work great, but I'm still adding it to the list. Gilded Dreams. Within 8 seconds of triggering an elemental reaction, this character equipping this will obtain buffs based on their elemental type and other party members. Attack is increased by 14% for each member whose elemental type is the same as the equipping character, and EM is increased by 50 for every member with a different elemental type. Each buff will count up to 3 characters and can be triggered once every 8 seconds, even when not on the field. Gladiator's Finale. Increases normal attack damage by 35% if the character uses a sword, claymore, or polearm. Golden Troop increases elemental skill damage by 25%. When character is not on the field, elemental skill damage will be further increased by 25%. Effect clears after the character takes the field. Heart of Depth. After using elemental skill, increases normal and charged attack damage by 30% for 15 seconds. This 2-piece set buff is for Hydro characters specifically, so this can only be used for 4-piece, but there are better builds out there. The 2-piece set buff is a Hydro damage bonus, 15%. Lava Walker increases damage against enemies affected by pyro by 35%. The 2-piece increases pyro res for 40%. Long Night's Oath. After the equipping character's plunging attack, charge attack, elemental skill hits an opponent, they will gain 1 /2/2 stacks of Radiance Everlasting, which increases plunging attacks by 50% for 6 seconds. Max 5 stacks. Each stack's duration is counted independently. Plunging attacks, charge attacks, or elemental skills can trigger this effect once every 1 second. Marishuse Hunter. When current HP increases or decreases, crit rate will be increased by 12% for 5 seconds. Max 3 stacks. A Blast of Bleach. Using an elemental burst increases all party members' attack by 20% for 12 seconds. And cannot stack. If you have Bandit with this team, with that set, this is useless. Pale Flame. When an elemental skill hits an opponent, attack is increased by 9% for 7 seconds. This effect stacks up to 2 times and could be triggered once every 0.3 seconds. Once 2 stacks are reached, the 2-piece set effect is doubled, which is the physical damage plus 25%. Retracing Bolide. While protected by a shield, granted normal 40% normal and charge attack damage. Screw of the Hero of the Cinder City. After the equipping character triggers a reaction, all nearby party members gain a 12% elemental damage bonus for the involved elemental types for 15 seconds. If the equipping character is in the Night Soul's Blessing state when triggering this effect, all party members get an additional 28% elemental damage bonus for the elemental types involved in this reaction for 20 seconds. Chongyun is not from Natlan, last I checked. No Night Soul Blessing could be granted, and you miss a good chunk out of this buff. But if you really want to use this, I will not judge you. Shimenawa's Reminiscence. When casting an elemental skill, if the character has 15 or more energy, they lose 15 energy, and normal charge plunging attack damage is increased by 50% for 10 seconds. This effect will not trigger again during that duration. Tenacity of the Millith. When an elemental skill hits an opponent, the attack of the nearby party members is increased by 20%, and their shield strength is increased by 30% for 3 seconds. This effect can be triggered once every 0.5 seconds and can still be triggered even when the character using the set is not on the field. Thunder Soother increases damage against enemies affected by Electro by 35%. 2-piece set bonus is the Electro Res, increased by 45%. Unfinished Reverie. After leaving combat for 3 seconds, damage dealt increases by 50%. In combat, if no burning opponents are nearby for more than 6 seconds, its damage bonus will increase by 10% per second until it reaches 0. When a burning opponent exists, it will increase by 10% instead until it reaches 50%. This effect can still trigger if the character is off-field. Vermilion Hereafter. After using an elemental burst, this character will gain an Ascent Light effect, decreasing their attack by 8% for 16 seconds. When the character's HP decreases, their attack will further increase by 10%. This further increase can occur this way a maximum of 4 times. This effect can be triggered once every 0.8 seconds. An Ascent Light will be dispelled when the character leaves the field. If an elemental burst is used again during the duration of Ascent Light, the original Ascent Light will be dispelled. And Varukasha's Glow. Elemental skill and elemental burst damage will be increased by 10%. After the equipping character takes damage, the aforementioned damage bonus is increased by 80% for 5 seconds. This effect increase can have 5 stacks. The duration of each stack is counted independently and can be triggered even when the character is not on the field. Now I'll list a few builds you can use with some of the 4-piece sets. The Level Walker / the Thunder Soother sets, you could use either of these sets to do extra damage to enemies affected by either power or electro, depending on which 4-piece set you used. There's probably some better sets out there for that, and you'll probably do more with just having another set buff, but you do you, boo, I guess. HP fluctuation for damage. Any of the artifact sets that has your HP fluctuate for damage is best when you have Farina and some sort of healer on your team. This could honestly be a good option for Chongyun. Golden Troop? You ever want to make Chongyun an off-field damage dealer? I guess it could work if you have him leveled up enough to unlock that talent Rhyme Chaser Blade. Energy Onegashimasu! Could be used as a DPS or support if you feel like it. Your choice. You could use Emblem or Shimenawa, whatever makes you and Chongyun happy. After that, I haven't listed other sets because of the time. And now I'll list every weapon that could be used on Chongyun level 90, Refinement rank 1. Tainted Greatsword. 187 elemental mastery at level 90 for a 3-star weapon has a bit more elemental mastery than some of the 4-star weapons. The special effect for this weapon doesn't really do anything for Chongyun besides reverse small teams. Debate Club. 35.2% attack for Chongyun along with the flat attack main set. After a normal attack, charge attack, or elemental skill, Chongyun will do 60% extra attack damage every 3 seconds. Felonious Greatsword. 61.3% energy recharge for battery Chongyun. Crit hits have a chance to give more energy based on the refinement rank. Sacrificial Greatsword, 30.6% energy recharge for battery Chongyun. It's not as great as Favonia's Greatsword, but there's a chance the skill cooldown will disappear if you hit an opponent. The chance increases the higher the refinement rank is. Rank Slasher. Its second stack gives 165 EM. Its passive doesn't really work on Chongyun unless you use him for any shattered teams. Prototype Archaic. 27.6% attack for Chongyun. Its passive gives a 50% chance of dealing 240%. Only happens once every 15 seconds. Royal Greatsword. 27.6% attack for Chongyun. If Chongyun hits an opponent, it increases his crit rate by 8%, which can stack up to 5 times until he crits. Critting removes every stack. Black Cliff Slasher. 55.1% crit damage added to Chongyun. If he kills an opponent, his attack increases by 12% and he can stack up to 3 times. The attack increases with more refinements. Serpent Spine. 27.6% crit rate added to Chongyun. Every 3 seconds, Chongyun is on field. He will deal 6% more damage and take 3% more damage and can be stacked up to 5 times. Stacks will only get reduced when he gets hurt. The damage he takes and deals can increase for more refinements Chongyun receives. Snow Tomb Star Silver. Only good for Chongyun if you specifically use a physical build on him. Physical damage increased by 34.5%. Hitting an enemy has a chance of an icicle coming from the sky and dealing AoE damage, which starts at 80% increases at the higher refinement rank. The chances of this happening increases at a higher refinement rank as well. Enemies that are affected by cryo are dealt 200% of attack damage when crit, which also increases based on refinement rank. Ultimate Overlord's Mega Magic Sword. Energy recharge increased by 30.6%, meant for battery Chongyun. Attack is increased by 12% and adds another 12% max based on the amount of millizines you've helped in Mirazia Village. The attack percent increases based on refinement rank. Lithic Blade. Attack increases by 41.3% for Chongyun. Every Liyue member in the same party as Chongyun, if he has his weapon equipped, will increase his attack by 7% and crit rate for 3%. This stacks up to 4 times and the percentages increase based on refinement rank. Katsura Gikiri Nagamasa. Energy recharge increased by 45.9%. Increases skill damage by 6%. If Chongyun hits an enemy with this skill, Chongyun will lose 3 energy but will gain 3 energy every 2 seconds for 6 seconds. The skill damage and energy he gains will increase based on refinement rank. Luxurious Sea Lord. Attack increased by 41.3%. Increases ultimate burst damage by 12% but will increase based on refinement rank. When his ultimate burst hits an opponent, a bunch of tuna will hit the opponent that does 100% of attack as AoE, which increases based on refinement rank. Happens once every 15 seconds. Akko Amaru, second main stack, gives an increase of 41.3% attack. For every point of the party's combined maximum energy capacity, Chongyun will gain 0.12% ultimate burst damage increase and increase up to 40%. This damage increase will increase based on refinement rank. Talking Stick. Crit rate increased by 18.4%. The weapon's passive is a bit strange. If Chongyun is affected by Pyro, his attack will increase by 16% for 15 seconds. All elemental damage will increase by 12% for 15 seconds if Chongyun is affected by Cryo, Hydro, Electro, or Dendro. Both effects can be triggered once every 12 seconds, and damage will increase based on the refinement rank. Forest Regalia. The main set increases energy recharge by 30.6%. This passive doesn't work on Chongyun, so there's better options than this weapon, but this weapon could also work for battery Chongyun if you don't have any other options. Tidal Shadow. Attack increases by 41.3%. Attack will increase by 24% for 8 seconds if Chongyun gets healed at all. Attack increases based on refinement rank. This weapon requires Chongyun to be actively hurt and healed repeatedly. This weapon will probably pair greatly with 4-piece Vermilion hereafter. This pair feels like torture. Mailed Flower. Elemental Mastery added to Chongyun by 110. When Chongyun uses a skill on an enemy, attack increases by 12% and Elemental Mastery increases by 48. Attack and EM increase based on refinement rank. Pretty good on Reverse Melt on Chongyun or Shatter. Makara Aquamarine. Elemental Mastery increased by 165. Every 10 seconds, Chongyun will gain 24% of his Elemental Mastery as attack for 12 seconds. Nearby party members get 30% of this buff, and this buff still works even when Chongyun is not the active party member. The 24% of EM as attack will increase based on refinement rank. Become of the Reed Sea. Crit rate increased by 33.1%. When Chongyun's skill hits an opponent, his attack will increase by 20% for 8 seconds. If Chongyun gets injured or hurt, this will also increase his attack and will increase by 20% for 8 seconds. If Chongyun is not protected by a shield at all, his HP is increased by 35%. His attack can increase in HP, increase based on weapons refinement rank. Skyward Pride. The main stat, 36.8% energy recharge, increases all damage by 8%. This number increases based on refinement rank. Ultimate bursts, normal, and charge attacks create vacuum blades that do 80% of attack as damage. The damage increases based on refinement rank. Max amount of blades are 8. Time limit is 20 seconds. Wolf's Gravestone. 49.6 attack main stat. Increases attack by 20%. Attacks on enemies with less than 30% of HP. Increases every party member's attack by 40% for 12 seconds and can happen once every 30 seconds. The party member's attack increases based on refinement rank. Red Hone Store Thresher. Increases the crit damage by 88.2%. I hate this weapon on Chongyun with a passion. But if you had a bunch of def on Chongyun, my job is making def seem like diesel exhaust fluid. If you add a bunch of diesel exhaust fluid to Chongyun... If you add a bunch of defense to Chongyun, this weapon increases normal and charge attack damage to opponents by 40% of his defense. His defense also increases by 28%. The defense he gains and the damage he does based on his defense increase based on the refinement rank. Song of Broken Pines. Increases physical damage by 20.7%. Passive increases attack damage by 16%. Normal and charged attacks will give Sigils of Whispers. Every time you reach 4 stacks, everyone nearby will gain an attack speed and damage buff for 12 seconds. Attack speed being 12% and damage being 20%. Damage increasing based on refinement rank. Cooldown is 20 seconds. Fang of the Mountain King would probably use this weapon as a last resort because this passive can't be used on Chongyun or any Chongyun team, and the main stat only has 11% crit rate, in which other weapons give more crit rate. Only use this if you have no other option, which is impossible. Verdict, 22.1% crit rate main stat, and increases attack by 20%. This weapon is good if you want to do a lot of skill damage, as it buffs elemental skill up to 18%. The Unforged attack is increased by 49.6%, increases shield strength by 20% if you really want to use a shielder with Chongyun. Scoring hits with the weapon gives you 4% attack up to 5 stacks. 1,000 Blazing Suns, main stat 11% crit rate, which honestly sucks. But at least this one lets you, your elemental skill and burst increases your attack by 20% and crit damage by 28% when you use them. And now that I have gone through everything that might have worked, those weapons are just included in what kind of builds you want to use him in. I have gone through everything. I have this sectioned on YouTube a certain way, you will probably notice. But goddamn, there's a lot. And this video was probably an hour long. Because it was 40 minutes the last time I checked before I even started with the artifact and weapon stuff. If you like this, great. I have spent so much fucking time on this. And after I post this video, I am taking a long break from Genshin because this is probably the most worked on thing I've ever done in my entire life. And I'm probably seen as insane right now. Yay, me. If you want to see me go over the TCG thing, let me know, and I will upload it. Never, maybe. If you want to see any of the sources I use, you can look down below in the description. I have every source I've used in this video down below. There may or may not be captions at this time, or only auto-generated captions, because my will to do this anymore has lost. Thank you for watching. If you want to see any other video, you could probably click the ones on screen now, but you don't have to. And thank you for sticking along with me. And a happy birthday, Chongyun. You better say that.